I mean, I don't really know what it means to be British. You're just living on this weird little collection of islands far away from other people.
My feelings about being British means that you accept this shared heritage between Scotland and England or Wales or Northern Ireland.
The only people that describe themselves as British are the English.
If you say you're British, people immediately think you've betrayed something. You're not 100% Scottish.
The term British, it always felt like, well, it should be an inclusive term. It was a lot more exclusionary than it should be.
UKIP, BNP, Britain First, those kind of far-right groups have stolen this idea of being proud to be British.
It's just become a lot more fractious, a lot more splintered.
I was thinking about Brits abroad on holiday, like, we act like such dickheads.
The name Great Britain is so vommy.
It's a really weird thing when you think about it, because you go so long without thinking about it.
Started getting really embarrassed of using the word British, because any time I used it, someone would tell me I wasn't, or someone would laugh.
Because it's not just our history that I'm embarrassed of, it's our present.
Because sometimes I feel like I'm not classed by other people as British because of my skin colour.
Being a person of colour, you're not really invited into certain white British spaces, or made to feel invited in certain white British spaces. And so obviously that makes you feel like a little bit like you're not as British as the people around you.
I don't feel British because I've never been treated like I was British.
I was born in Britain. My parents are both British. My grandparents are all British, and as far back as I can find, everybody in my family is British. But at the same time, it's like I don't feel kind of happy with what Britain is right now.
Only 3 generations ago, being British was so tied up with the British Empire, and under that, my family were the colonised. They weren't the colonisers.
It's not so much that I feel guilty for the sins of my country. Yes, they were terrible, but I don't feel guilty. It wasn't me, it wasn't my parents, it wasn't even my grandparents. I feel guilty that we're not educated about it. I'd managed to get through the entirety of compulsory education without ever once being presented of evidence of something bad being done in the name of my country.
The UK just doesn't really care about Northern Ireland, even though I personally identify as being British, and I plan to stand with that, but I kind of think that Britain doesn't want me to identify as being British.
There's a band I quite like called Enter Shikari. They've got a song called System Meltdown, and the line goes, "Countries are just lines drawn in the sand with a stick."
It's easy to take one period of time and be embarrassed about it. It's easy to take one period of time and be really proud about it.
When people want to move to the UK from India or from Africa, it's generally because they already speak English. And they already speak English because we forced their ancestors to speak it.
And I still, down the street sometimes, I'll still get someone doing the whole slanty eyes things at me.
So I come from a country that was a British colony up until 35 years ago. The memories for a lot of people are still very raw and still something that they lived through. You know, they've come here now and they're still not over this fear of British.
The word tolerance has come up a lot. A lot of people see tolerance as a good thing, but I see it as so kind of passive, and I don't want to just tolerate people. I want to accept them and welcome them.
I kind of fit the stereotype of a typical British person. By suiting those stereotypes, I kind of became more proud of them. But as I learned more about colonialism, I became more ashamed, while people around me became more proud.
Do you think you could ever be proud of being British?
What
would it take?
There are aspects I am proud of, like the NHS, our education system. Both of them are in crisis at the moment.
Britain is making a lot of positive changes.
London Olympics. Britain, it was multicultural, it was aware of its history, it was everything. Just the opening ceremony summed it up.
British humour is really hard to explain, and I love how we all get it.
I suppose I am proud in that sense, you know, of very superficial things like small talk about the weather or the aggressive love of tea and complaining and queuing.
And so the royal family for us is something that's very unique, and it's a representation of everything that this country has to offer.
I personally would be proud if we took on a lot more refugees from Syria and across the world.
Maybe think more globally as a nation. That would probably make me quite proud.
I am proud of being British, even if being British is problematic.
Embrace the fact that I am from 2 remarkable places.
I'm Scottish and British.
And that's not a contradiction.
I think I get so annoyed as my mum never let us give half-hearted apologies.
But maybe, you know, we as a country, as a government, as a people could become more apologetic for what we've done. That might go some way to making me feel a bit more proud.
So I don't think I could ever be fully proud to be British until we started learning about the awful things that we did in history.
Background and your stories and your heritage and the stories of your ancestors are important. It doesn't give you superiority. It just gives you a background.
We share this, we share a flag, we share a language, and yet we'll never meet most of our population, but we're united in these labels.
Not just coexisting, but valuing what each of us has that's different to bring to the table. That is Britain.
I think I'm more proud of being British and more defensive of that identity because there are people who don't want me to have it. If I didn't have to fight to claim it, I wouldn't be so fussed.
You know, if we're kind of creating these values that affect other people, then we should have a more public discussion about it.
With the terror attacks, seeing Manchester react the way that they did, that was a source of immense pride for me.
I mean, ideally, patriotism would be not taking your country too seriously. You love it for how it is, you love it for its greatness, you love it for its weird little faults, and you're just very aware of it. It's sort of like, it's your home.
Maybe that would make me proud if we could have a national discussion about Britishness in a polite, civilised way.
I think it's going to be such a cool day that I can be like, yay, full-time patriotism, and like tattoo the Union Jack on my butt cheek or something. I don't know.
We're doing okay. I mean, we're not quite Scandinavia, but we're doing all right.
Hi, my name's Lena. I'm 27 years old. I'm from the Midlands. My grandmother was Welsh. My mum is Irish and grew up in Scotland. My dad's side of the family are, well, pretty English from what I can tell. I mean, I drink a lot of tea. I'm a big queuer. No one from other countries gets my jokes. So I'm like, British, right? End of discussion.